Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Today, we're talking trans fats. So this is going back to understanding that fat has gotten a really bad reputation over the years and recognizing that not all fat is bad. So quick recap from weeks past, the types of fats are unsaturated and saturated. Unsaturated are the ones we want. They are a liquid at room temperature. Think, olive oil, right? Saturated are a solid at room temperature. And we do need a little bit of this, but we don't need to focus on it because we'll get it through our food choices, especially if you eat animal protein, right? So a good example of saturated fat is like the marbling in a steak, right? If that's left out at room temperature, it's not like it melts. That's a solid at room temperature. Okay. There's one type of saturated fat that we want to avoid completely, and that is trans fat. So a trans fat was at one time a liquid at room temperature. The food manufacturers pump it full of hydrogen to make it a solid at room temperature. So this changes the chemistry of the fat, and it allows it to have a really long shelf life, which is frankly kind of scary, but that's maybe a whole other conversation, right? And it's used in processed foods and packaged foods to keep them fresh, in quotations, right? And moist, although I hate that word, as they sit on the shelves, right? So here's where it gets tricky, because if you remember, years ago, the FDA said that there could no longer be trans fats in our foods. And now we see all the packages with call-outs on the front of the box saying 0 grams of trans fats, right? Or trans fat free. But remember that these food labels are written in terms of a single serving size. And a food label can say 0 grams of trans fat if it contains 0.5 grams or less per serving. So, right? So it can actually have trans fats in it and still say 0 grams of trans fats. So this requires us to be super savvy consumers and learn to read the ingredients on the package so that we know if there really are trans fats in it or not. The words that we're looking for in the ingredient list are, get your pens, modified, fractionated, hydrogenated, or hydrolyzed. And it'll be one of those words paired with like a vegetable oil. So it might say fractionated corn oil or modified soybean oil, right? And remember, we have to read the ingredients because no one on the planet will ever be deficient in trans fats, right? They are the worst of the bad fats, chemically modified to be more solid at room temperature and added to foods to make them more shelf stable. So as I often say, the longer the food's shelf life, the shorter yours, right? Insert another sound effect. Dun-dun. Right? But really, understanding what trans fats are, the fact that we don't need them at all, and how to identify them in foods, even if the food says that it doesn't have trans fats in it on the front of the package, and even if the number on the nutrition facts says it's 0, it actually can be there. Of course, this goes without saying, but if we just stick to the foods that don't have a label, right, like your vegetables and fruits, you're golden. Still, we want to keep this info in our back pockets because we're human. And at some point in life, we'll probably eat food that has a label.
Yep.
Right? So now you know the truth of trans fats.
That's great. I had no idea that they could count trans fats that way. That's wild. Wow.
Isn't it crazy? I know our food supply and those kinds of what's allowed to be in our nutrition and our foods is a whole soapbox issue. But George, thank you for joining me
it's
from
my
afar.
pleasure. It's been great. Really learned a lot. Really learned a lot. I didn't know. You're fabulous, and your show is great. Thank you so much for having me be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to have you join me. As always, guys, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Our Facebook page is also by the same handle, and we want to hear from you. So submit your questions, ideas, your takeaway videos, all of this. Social media is really the easiest way to reach out and even to inquire about working with me directly, like George, or addressing any of your personal concerns. All right, everybody, have confidence in your plan. Know that you've got this, and we've got you. We'll see you next Wednesday. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.